So here with us in studio right now to share their thoughts is our Soapbox social panel. Amir is the host of the This Is Vancouver podcast. Hello.
Hello, Gloria. Did you know that there's a photo of you going viral on Facebook right now? Sorry to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming.
You shared that with me a little earlier on today, and yeah, I don't.
It's
I'm not
blowing up Facebook.
I'm not on Facebook, so yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it secondhand a couple of times. Do you want to take us further down that path now that you've opened up the conversation?
I believe it was your Sweet 17. You told me you're riding in the back of a convertible, and you are Miss Peony.
Miss Peony, 1978. Yeah, you know who was driving that convertible? That was George Wainborn. You know George Wainborn Park? He was a park board commissioner.
Wow.
And he was a park board commissioner at the time, and he was also one of the directors on the Peony board. And that was his thing. He'd bring out his beautiful convertible and drive you in the parade. It's a funny photograph though, because I'm kind of hunched over. It looks like I'm ducking something. But
George looks like he's asleep at the wheel.
It's true. It's true. But it's funny to see yourself as a youngster.
Teen.
A teenager, 17 years old. It's kind of crazy how time flies. Kyla Lee is with us too, very politely sitting there because you haven't seen the viral photograph.
I haven't seen the photo, but it's the first thing I'm going to do when I get out of here.
Kyla is a Vancouver criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation. Good to see you too.
Nice to see you.
Okay, Mo, you've already hijacked the agenda
Sorry.
here, but let's get back to the mayoral race. What do you make of the race as it stands right now?
Oh, I think Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is sitting pretty right now. I think he's looking at the field and he's looking at different parties, whether it's Vote Vancouver, Vancouver Liberals, One City, Greens, potentially COPE, who is apparently seeking a mayoral candidate as well. And while those 5 parties have very distinct bases, they're all drawing from that center-left pool of voters. So Ken Sim, as we saw with Justin McElroy this week, he's talking about public safety, particularly police-centered public safety and affordability, which he means property tax stabilization. And he's going, I'm positioned in this lane and no one's even touching it. So we've seen mayors get voted in with less than 30%, whether it was Kennedy Stewart in 2018 or in Vancouver, of course, or Brenda Locke in 2022 in Surrey. So I think Ken Sim sees a very clear path to victory.
Well, and I invite anyone to go on to the CBC, the early edition on CBC Listen, because the interview that Justin McElroy did with Ken Sim was really quite interesting.
How many times did he say public safety?
Well, that's it. He asked him about the park board situation, and he said public safety and affordability. Yeah. And he asked him
about
cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and he said public safety and affordability. And anyway, Kyla, Mo has sort of opened up the field here, and he pointed out that we could see 3 other parties nominations for mayoral candidates. So Colleen Hardwick's COPE, as he pointed out, Team for a Livable Vancouver, and the Conservative Electoral Association. It's a crowded field. So what stands out to you?
I think for me, what stands out right now is what sets Ken Sim apart. And I disagree with Mo. I think what sets him apart is actually potentially going to be his downfall. And the reason I say that is if we look south of the border and at what's going on there with the sort of use of police powers to maintain this, public safety issue against immigration, people are starting to see that as a bad thing. And I think maybe some of that is going to trickle over into here. If we look at things like Project Barrage, we're going to see, what the police do during FIFA and how they're being used and how they treat people who are experiencing homelessness during all of that. I think that might change a lot of attitudes about this public safety to look at the, very pro-police, give the police whatever they want stance of Ken Sim as being dangerous to public safety at the end of the day.
That was the third issue that came up several times, FIFA. Mm-hmm. It was public safety, affordability, and FIFA.
Yeah.
That was
his management of FIFA. There's so many factors at play that could obviously change the landscape. I'm just speaking about the political positioning today at this early juncture.
Okay, well, we've only had 1 or 2 major, left-leaning candidates for mayor. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that doesn't appear to be the situation this time?
The progressive parties in Vancouver, the established ones, have a long-standing tradition of fragmentation, and so I think it's just a continuation of history. But then on top of that, we have, ABC Vancouver 1.1 with the Vancouver Liberals. I mean, it's all ex-ABCers so far on that team. And then we have Vote Vancouver added to the mix. And again, they're pitching to Ken Sim's left as well. So, like I said, I feel like they think that this is a very unpopular mayor, and here's a great time to to have a campaign, and they're all just kind of fighting each other instead of campaigning against him.
Yeah, and you wrote about this in the Tyee this week as well. And I mean, the race for mayor is one thing, but when you also see some of these, formerly prominent councillors stepping into the mayor's race as well, it also means that anyone who doesn't win as mayor also will not sit as on council, for example. What are you watching for there in terms of how that can change?
In terms of council, and I didn't write about this in the Tyee, but in terms of council, I think we might see a very mixed council. I think ABC will actually lose its majority on council because progressive parties tend to coordinate a little better when it comes to their council candidates, not so much on their mayoral candidates. So it'll be just full of dysfunction, I think, if that's the way it goes.
Well, and if that's the way it goes, Kyle, I mean, remember when Kennedy Stewart was mayor, he struggled with a divided council when he was mayor. What kind of dynamic are you looking at as potentially playing out here?
I mean, I think back when Kennedy Stewart was mayor, it felt like simpler times in the world. I have hope that, if there is an ABC minority on council and we see a lot of progressive council members, that they're actually going to, put whatever differences they have aside and work together. And we've seen that happen on the left before. We saw that in provincial politics with the NDP and the Green Coalition. We've seen that happen federally. So it could happen. And I think, now is the time to do it, especially because people need unity right now in everywhere more than anything. And I think the state of the world might be the thing that spurs politicians on city council to create that unity once they get elected.
Well, that's an interesting point. Okay, let's move on from Vancouver politics to two Vancouver companies embroiled in American politics right now. First up, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in talks to buy a Virginia warehouse that's owned by the Jim Pattison Group with plans to turn it into an immigration and customs enforcement ICE processing facility. We did get a statement from the Jim Pattison Group, and in part it says that they accepted an offer to sell their building to a U.S. government contractor. Here's part of the statement. We became aware of the ultimate owner and intended use of the building. This transaction is still subject to certain approvals and closing conditions. Kyla, from a legal perspective, what do you make of this case?
I think from a legal perspective, that statement to me says, well, the subjects haven't been removed, but the sale will probably go through, and we're hoping the attention blows over before it does. I think it's also, once you have an offer that's been, conditionally accepted, it's really hard to back out because there are significant financial consequences. Now, can Pattison afford those financial consequences? Absolutely. But is he going to want to expose himself to them and expose the company to them? Probably not. It's not good corporate leadership, even though, it's also not good corporate leadership to sell a building to be used for what it appears it's going to be used for.
What do you think, Mom? Could this blow over if the sale does go through?
No, I think there's a battle on two fronts when we think about public relations. The first is the external battle, so that's the reputational risk and public perception. We're already seeing it with protests against some of these companies at a time when anti-Trumpism or anti-Americanism is at an all-time high. Then you have to deal with stakeholder relations. So these are the companies that your company works with, because suddenly they don't necessarily want to be associated with you. So you have to figure that out. And then, of course, you have competitors in the market that might be looking at this and positioning themselves to take some of your business or some of your other vendors. Internally, though, you also have to think about the effect on morale of your employees. If they're seeing this in the news constantly, if their friends and family are asking about this, not a great time.
Well, the Pattison Grocery Group, the union, came out with a statement yesterday saying, no, we don't like the looks or the sounds of this at all.
Exactly. So it's an internal conflict that's happening. And then you have to think about things like investors. Similar to the stakeholder relations is people who are invested in your companies or different ventures, do they want their name associated with what you're doing? So at the end of the day, I don't know how any of these companies are going to get out of it, but they have to get in front of it. They can't just be quiet and continue business as usual.
And another high-profile local company, according to the U.S. government procurement website Hootsuite, based here in Vancouver, of course, it has a contract worth $2.8 million U.S. with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which, of course, oversees ICE to provide, the quote is, social media management platform Hootsuite and support services. So yesterday, we heard from Hootsuite CEO Irina Novoselsky, who released a statement saying their tech helps organizations understand what people are saying using unbiased, authentic social media social data, sorry. This helps them understand how people are feeling and where trust is being earned or lost. It also goes on to say, and our use case with ICE does not include tracking or surveillance of individuals using our tools. Mo, how satisfying a statement is that?
Have you seen ICE's social media? I mean, they're putting out these hype videos that are really glorifying a lot of their activities in a way that is distasteful to a lot of not just Canadians, but Americans. And so I think saying that, oh, we're just running the social media, I don't think it's going to cut it, especially when people dig a little deeper into the content that ICE is actually producing online.
Well, and we talked about, will any of this blow over? I mean, Kyla, tomorrow afternoon, there are protests planned at both Hootsuite and Pattison headquarters. Do you think public pressure could affect things here, change things?
I mean, I'm a little bit more, without, obviously I'm not at all sympathetic to ICE, but I'm more sympathetic to Hootsuite's situation. They entered into the contract in 2024 under the Biden administration, and they've had a lot of financial difficulty. They've had massive layoffs. And if they lose something that's very valuable, there could be more layoffs. So, people who are employed here working in Vancouver, I think the public pressure, if it does push them to do that, may have very real consequences for people living here. And I think people who are, putting pressure on them need to understand that they may be offering up some people in Canada as sort of sacrifices to the cause.
Well, there's a lot of attention on these companies. I mean, they have issued statements, but neither the Jim Pattison Group nor Hootsuite have held any press conferences or made anyone available for interviews. Goodness knows we're requesting people for interviews. Mo, have they said enough? I mean, what do you make of the way they've handled this?
Time is of the essence, as I said. I think the key thing is they have to get out in front of it, but you also don't want to get out in front of it with with the wrong strategy to make things even worse. So I think they're trying to figure this out internally to have a unified message, something that they can anticipate where the anger is coming from, where the questions are coming from, and being able to answer it. But I think they have to act very soon.
Okay, well, there's lots going on this week. We had a conversation in our last hour about the Conservative leadership review that's happening in Calgary tomorrow. Pierre Poilievre's future is at stake here right now. What are you going to be watching for this weekend, Mo?
I mean, I think Pierre Poilievre is going to pass his leadership review. I think he'll stay on as leader. I feel like ever since the election last year, we're still trying to figure out how the Conservative Party pivots away from, using Justin Trudeau as a foil and being able to match up against Mark Carney. I don't think they've figured that out yet. So I'm looking for a speech from him that maybe gives an indication of, Pierre Poilievre 2.0 at this point.
Okay. Kyla, what about you?
I mean, I think one of the big difficult things for Poilievre is his personal branding has been so terrible and has been received so terribly. He seems to be pivoting towards trying to clean that up and trying to, be more serious, whatever that looks like. Whether that's going to be successful or not with Canadians, ultimately, I don't know. I do agree with Mo that he's probably going to survive the leadership review. I don't see...
But by a margin, are you predicting a wide margin?
I think over 80%.
A lot.
Yeah,
okay. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is our Soapbox Social panel. Mo Amir is the host of the This Is Vancouver podcast. Kyla Lee is a criminal lawyer for Acumen Law Corporation.